in class for everybody, it was always about we lived someplace special and it's right outside our door. And all you have to do is look at it. And so my science teachers back then, they could take us on weekend camping trips out into the Catskills. My art teachers could take us out to the field and hunt for wild mushrooms and find a giant puffball and cook it up in the science room. Carol Hetherington would take me and a couple other interested students up to Wyndham Lookout Point to paint the sunrise, to get there before the sun comes up and watch the light change.
Welcome to Inside the Line, the Catskills. Welcome everyone to episode 11 of Inside the Line, the Catskills. Tonight I have a great chat with my friend David Turan, who is the executive director of the Michael Kudish National History Preserve in Stanford. David and I discuss his younger life in the Catskills and what big differences and changes that are between then and now. We also discuss about the Michael Kudish National History Preserve, which he is executive director of, and what future events they have that you can participate in. Before you listen to this great episode that I have here with David, I'd like to tell you that my microphone was broken, so I had to use a lesser quality microphone for this recording. The quality is absolutely horrible. I wouldn't say it's the worst, but it's close. I'd like to thank my dad for fixing my higher quality microphone so that it could be used today. Thank you, Dad, for so much work you did in that short amount of time. I really appreciate it. So I hope you have a great time listening to this episode, and please check out the Michael Kudish National History Preserve on Facebook and their website at www.mknhp.org. Enjoy. All right, so welcome everyone to episode 11 of Inside the Line, the Catskills. I'm here with my friend David Turan of the Michael Kudish National History Preserve. He's joining me via Zoom, like I always do, because mostly all the people I try to see are like 2 hours away. But luckily, David is only like 40 minutes away, but he lives in a very great area, Stanford. David, say hi.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
It's good to have you, David. I've been friends with David for a little bit now, since he opened the preserve when I met him. When was that? 2014?
17.
Okay. That was one of the most welcoming times I've ever been to an event. It was absolutely insane. I have no clue what I'm getting into. My wife and I get out of our car and everybody is so happy, and it was such a good time.
Yeah, it was good to have you. You came for the Paint the Sunset.
Paint the Sunset. We went to see the live band, but I don't think it was there. If there was the live band, I think we were too late.
Well, that was a full day thing. Oh no, wait. Yeah, no, it was Paint the Sunset. That's when I first met you, because you asked if anybody could come to Paint the Sunset, and I said, of course anybody can come and paint the sunset. What else?
Well, I didn't know it was the cool people. Only the cool people get to do that. But I've known David for a little bit, and he's taught me a lot. I've been on at least 2 hikes with him, and I know he knows a lot, which is awesome. And he's great for the Catskills. He's a very special person for the Catskills. So I'm glad to have him on tonight.
Oh, thank you, Stosh.
Yes, anytime. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Scenic Route Guiding. Thank you, Sarah, and your ladies for kicking ass at the Catskills and Adirondacks, and thank you for supporting the show. I'd like to thank the monthly donors, Katrina Weinig, Darren White, and John Comiskey. Thank you guys very much for donating the show. And I'd like to thank Myra and Sean for donating 2 coffees for the show. So thanks a lot, guys. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you all enjoy the show. So, David, we drinking anything tonight, sir?
I am.
What do you got?
I have a vodka and tonic.
I was going to drink something, but I didn't know if that would mess up with my head.
Well, I know a 98-year-old woman who swears that drinking a vodka and tonic every day kept her alive for 98 years. So I figured I'd go with that.
I've heard studies about that stuff about, people having a glass of wine at night or actually in the morning and stuff has kept them alive for over 100 years.
Yeah, well, I think that the vodka tonic thing is the quinine more than the vodka.
You down a little bit. That's what we have the alcohol for. So excellent. I'm just having some water tonight. I got to let this head injury pass. We'll talk about that
Yeah,
next.
Stosh has a boo-boo on his head.
Definitely do. It was a fun one. We'll talk about that actually right now. David, you been on any previous hikes lately? Anywhere?
Yeah. I hike with Mike almost weekly, and of course, I've been asked by a couple of landowners who recently purchased some land to come out and see what they got and help them achieve their goals. I guess people find me through the Master Forest Owners program of Cornell. I went through that training many years ago, and yeah, I've hiked a lot. I've hiked many times this week. Yes.
Good, good. I'm mostly around the preserve, I'm guessing, and checking out. So, do you guys find new stuff every day? I'm guessing.
No. The preserve flora is pretty much down. We know every plant that grows here after so many years. We've been here 20 years, so we've been studying the flora and vegetation and all of the history of the preserve for the past 17 years.
Wow.
Now it's offsite. Now people want me to come to their place and see what they got. And a lot of people have goals and objectives that they want to meet, and they want to do what's right, but they don't know where to start. And so I just go and I tell them what I see. And a messy forest is a healthy forest. The forest is perfectly capable of taking care of itself. But if you want to finesse it for your own personal reasons, I can point you in the right direction.
That's awesome. That's great. That's really cool that they're reaching out to you for this, especially like I'm guessing they're new people that have moved up from the city.
Yes, some of the people have just purchased their property. They're moving up from the city, or they're wanting to purchase property. But it's other people who have been here forever and just never thought to explore what was in their forest or appreciated it. It was there. It was trees and it was a buffer or something. And now they want to know what it's about and maybe enhance its production. I don't really like that term, enhances production, because like I said, it's perfectly capable of producing on its own. So I prefer to just show them what they have. And then once you know what you have, then you can research what you want to do.
Definitely. There's a lot of books out there to help you achieve that goal of what you want and what you want to know about your forest, especially around here. Upstate New York is very similar all around, especially up here towards us. And then there's also very different places. So it's very cool stuff.
Yeah.
Excellent. So previous hike I went on, yesterday I went up Mount Cheryl, bushwhacked up to a magical place that I'm not going to give away. Hopefully I'll take David up there sometime. But on the way up, I slipped on a rock. I couldn't catch myself quick enough. When I usually do, I'm usually like a cat, and I catch myself and I'm just like, oh, that was a close one. This one, I slipped and hit my head on the rock and flipped right over and kind of like dozed off for 5-10 seconds. Got right up. SAR instincts kicked in, flew over to one of the rocks and poured out my bag to see what I got. Unfortunately, for some reason, I didn't pack gauze pads. But I was like, I got a t-shirt here. I got what else? And I like grabbed my head and I was bleeding and I was like, okay. I'm like, oh, I got wet wipes. I'm like, I'll take the wet wipes. I put the wet wipe over there and I talked to myself. I was basically like, if this doesn't like stop in 5-10 minutes, I'm out of here. I got to get back down the mountain. And I was grateful that it did stop. I got to go on my mission of what I was looking for. I got to go to the viewpoint on Cheryl. I got the summit and then I went back down. And what can I say? Shit happens.
Yeah. Well, what I can say is don't do that. Lesson learned. Don't hike alone. Be prepared. Come back down when you smash your head on a rock. Just me, the motherly one. That's all.
I've had a bunch of people say that, like,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, you know what? This is the first accident I've had. Well, like second, I've scraped my knee and the skin came off. So, but this is the first one that I was just like, all right, we'll evaluate the situation and see what's going on from here. But it's just right. I mean, David can see it. It's just a black eye and a little scar. It's nothing too big. Like I don't think I had a concussion. I came home. I drove home fine.
Great way to test for a concussion. No.
Hey, I had to hike a bunch 4 or 5 miles after that. So I think I evaluated myself up after that. I summited. That's all that matters.
I don't advise any of your listeners to do this. I have that disclaimer.
That's true. I got to admit, it is after this. It is great to have a buddy system, or if you're gonna hike alone, go on a trail.
Exactly.
So I'm just a big I love bushwhacking, and I don't have the time to sorry to say, but to wait for somebody, and then the weekends I don't have off. So I'm a big bushwhacker. So someday maybe my friend John or you will join me. My friend John, Father John, doesn't like the bushwhacks. I've taken several pictures of him hating bushwhacks, and I love it.
I've had some guests not enjoy my bushwhacks. It's just a little, you tend to overestimate, your familiarity with the environment, and not everybody is in the same space. So you have to know your audience.
Correct. And, sometimes I run into a beautiful open forest, and all of a sudden there's massive amounts of prickers in your way.
Yeah, most of the time.
Exactly. And that's what John, I remember taking John up Rusk, and on the way down to the ledges, there's all those prickers, and we wore shorts. So I was fine with it.
That's just another thing I don't advise is shorts, long pants, socks tucked in. You never know when you're going to get a tick. Everybody I know is getting Lyme disease, and knock on wood, I haven't gotten it yet in my 55 years. Oh,
same here. Somebody's at the door. That's what the dog thinks. Nice.
Yeah. No, it's nobody at the door. I knocked on wood, and now my dogs are going crazy. I should know not to do that. Stop. Ruby.
That's okay.
Come here.
My dogs would do the same exact thing if I did that. So I'll knock on wood silently. But same thing here. So, but yeah, it was a fun hike. Beautiful view. Got the summit. I wrote a very funny thing on the summit register about mountain lions. Apparently, if you loud enough, you can see a mountain lion in the distance, and it won't attack you.
Well, that might call in chickadees or nuthatches, but I don't know if it's going to affect a mountain lion.
Not yet. We don't know.
We don't know. We just don't know.
All right. Yeah. So that was the good old times. Eyes turning black and blue, and it'll probably get worse, but that'll happen. Well, at least that might get me out of the SAR test I have to do this weekend.
Oh.
That's gonna be fun.
Put a steak on it. That's what they used to say. Put a steak on it.
Oh yeah, steak or peas. I did have ice on it, so I was doing the right thing. My wife's very good at treating these injuries and telling me what to do and stuff like that. One of those stubborn men that is just like, I'm fine.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, so yes. All right, so let's get into the interview and the topic of the night: David Turan and the Michael Kudish National History Preserve. Now, this is more about David and not about the preserve, but we're going to talk about the preserve because it's a beautiful, awesome place located in a beautiful, awesome town that I love. I can never skip over that place. But first off, we'll David, introduce yourself. What are your accomplishments, stuff like that.
Hi, Dave Turan. I'm the executive director of the Michael Kudish Natural History Preserve. I have lived in New York State most of my life. I was born in Catskills. I was born in Staten Island, New York, and my parents moved to Catskill. They bought a marina when I was 5 years old. I didn't get to finish my first year of kindergarten in Staten Island. So my whole school life was in Catskill. And then I went in the Air Force, and then I found my way into good works, into nonprofits. And then I met my husband, and then we decided to buy a piece of land and preserve it forever. And now we have done that, and we welcome everybody to come and enjoy it with us.
Beautiful place. Remember, it's all good. We welcome dogs all the time. Trust me. My dogs are probably even worse than that. Luckily, it's not light out. If it was still light out, you just hear them barking all the time. It's sad, but yeah, I suggest people to check that place out in Stanford. What's the road it's on? That's not on Mountaintop Road, right?
It's on Tower Mountain Road. In the village, it's called Mountain Avenue, but at the border of the village and the town, which is where the preserve is, it changes to Tower Mountain Road.
Okay.
So Tower Mountain comes over from the south side over the saddle, which is the southernmost part, but the highest elevation on the preserve.
Awesome. Check it out. The Michael Kudish National History Preserve. Check it out. And then we're going to get on to some questions with David. So he sort of answered the first one, but I guess you were introduced to the Catskills by your parents and stuff. Did you just start exploring by yourself in the Catskills, or did your parents take you out a lot and stuff?
Well, my parents bought a marina when I was 5, and I was swimming before I was walking because I was born in Staten Island. And so when we got to the marina, of course, it was the fall of 1971, but in the spring, where was I? In the creek. That was where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the water. I wanted to be in the woods. So I was always there. And then my cousins from Staten Island and New Jersey would come up. My aunts and uncles would come up for the summer because, summer is great in the Catskills. And I would take my cousins. My parents would say, go on, go in the woods. So we'd go in the woods, and, I was the oldest. Well, I have an older brother and an older sister, but they were older than my cousins. So I was the leader of the cousin pack, and we'd pack cans of soup and beans and put on our backpacks and go out to what was called the Nose. The marina that my parents bought is called the Hoppanose Marina. And the Hoppanose, I'm not sure if it's actually been proven, but the Hoppanose Indians are what get the credit for the Hoppanose. And the reason why it's called Hoppanose is because there's a rocky outcrop in the creek where it looks like the nose of an Indian. So it's called Hoppanose, and that's so I was only allowed to go with my cousins to the Nose and no further in the woods. And on the weekend, when they would come up, and they would have a great time, working and entertaining all the people on the boats, and they had steak roasts and chicken roasts and everything. And us kids would be out, and we didn't just not stop at the Nose. We went over the Nose. You're not going to go to the Nose and not see what's on the other side. So we did. It's been my first. I was the youngest kid on the block in Staten Island, and everybody else went to school. So my first friends were my imaginary forest creatures in the woods next to us on a dead end street. And, back then Staten Island still had woods. And my mom would my wonderful mother, set out the picnic table with carrots and celery and cucumbers, because that's all I would eat. I would only eat vegetables when I was little. And some for the rabbit, and some for the fox, and some for the skunk, and some for my dog Pokey, and some for me. Of course, I would eat it all. And yeah, I think I was kind of born in the woods.
Amazing. That's awesome. So what I'm guessing as you got older and stuff like that, and for what you've done for the Catskills, what made you fall in love with the Catskills? Too much?
Well, no. I loved school, and I was lucky enough to have some really amazing teachers in my life. since junior high, well, forever, even in grade school at Grandview Elementary, which is now a Walmart, which is very sad. But my most influential people, I think, was when I was starting to of course, when I was 5 and I was playing, we were camping in the woods and that was all good, but we also had to work. Once we became 10 and 12, we had to work.
Yep.
So we did. And I was working at a ski shop in Hunter, Tannersville, when I was 16. It was right after I got my driver's license. But before that, it was my junior high school art and science teachers who had an amazing friendship and really cared about us students. There was my two art teachers, Carol Hetherington and Barry Hopkins, and my science teachers, Wayne Fisher and Steve Carollo. And they together, like in class for everybody, it was always about, we lived someplace special and it's right outside our door. And all you have to do is look at it. And so my science teachers back then, they could take us on weekend camping trips out into the Catskills. My art teachers could take us out to the field and hunt for wild mushrooms and find a giant puffball and cook it up in the science room. Carol Hetherington would take me and a couple other interested students up to Wyndham Lookout Point to paint the sunrise, to get there before the sun comes up and watch the light change and put in your trees or your outline, and then while the colors change, try to paint them on your canvas. You can't beat that kind of stuff. So they really can't. And then yeah, that's really where it all started. Art and science teachers in junior high.
Unbelievable, man. The stuff we weren't limited to back then. Like,
yeah,
you could just like, yeah, let's go out on a hike this weekend. Your kids, you're good. Take them, get them out of here.
Yeah.
Now the kids don't even want to go outside.
Well, that's not true. I got lots of kids that want to go outside around here.
Well, like you said, it's all about teaching, and you're teaching them about what's in their backyard and what they have, and they're fascinated by what they have now. I was fascinated by the creek beside my house, and I was fascinated with the river down the street, and the woods behind my grandma's house. But, I didn't have any thoughts of, I played sports and stuff like that, but, I played outside 99.9% of the time when I was a kid. And I'm so glad I got that era, but we got to do that stuff. So
you're young and you're probably one of the last ones.
Yes, I definitely agree. Last ones in, our generation to play outside in the whole summer. I never stepped foot inside until I had to go to bed.
Yep.
And that's the way it was, which stinks. But you know what? That's awesome stories to hear. And hopefully we can bring those people back like the way you are and the way that your teachers did and stuff like that. Show them what they have in their backyard, especially in the Catskills. My God, they have everything. It's absolutely phenomenal. So next question is, how long have you been like hiking in the Catskills, like seriously hiking?
Well, I'm not a leisurely hiker. And I did finally join the 3,500 club, but not to climb 3,500 peaks, only because I have climbed 3,500 peaks. My hiking time, my serious hiking time is spent with research with Dr. Michael Kudish, my mentor and one of my best friends ever, and the foremost Catskills forest historian, who is a wealth of information and an absolute joy to learn from, who was a Paul Smith's professor at Paul Smith's College forever. So yeah, that's where my serious hiking comes from. I get to a 3,500 foot peak because I'm measuring a bog watershed, or I'm looking for a doxa, or Mike had been there 30 years ago and saw a fern glade and wants to see what it is looking like now, some sort of research topic. There's never the leisure. There's always the beauty and the amazement, and I learn something new every time, but it's the objective is always to accomplish an item on a field list that's 100 trips long, and Mike is counting down how many years he has left to hike. So, that's the focus now. We got to get done what we got to get done.
That's awesome. So you're one of the few, one of the few. There's very few that does the research. It's quite as much as you guys do, and it's fascinating stuff to see your guys' adventures and to hear your guys' adventures, especially when it comes to stuff that have been there for thousands and thousands of years, and you guys are measuring it periodically to see what has changed over the years. And it's great to hear that stuff. It's so awesome. I love it. And I wish I could be on more hikes with you guys and stuff like that. So, but
all you have to do is email Mike. He'll put you on the list, and when he's got something to do and he needs help, he'll let you know.
Excellent. I would love to go with him, but if you're not there, I wouldn't go. I need I don't know. I just I like your style and stuff like that. I like your positivity. It's so great that like I said, I'll never forget that time we came into the preserve, and it was just like a welcoming. I'm just like, this is different, and then you're just like, welcome, and now it's just like, oh my god, this is amazing.
We do like to be amazing around here.
Well, excellent. That's the way you should be.
That's kind of a plug I could put in there. I don't know what your next question is, but talking about amazing, the amazingness was missed during this pandemic greatly. 2020 was miserable. 2021 was a little bit better, but we still couldn't do what we want to do. What we're driven to do is to welcome people to a field and a forest and a stream, and with art and music and friends and wisdom. That's what we're here for. And even outdoors, our flagship program is a month-long, 5-day-a-week, 4-week-long program for kids who are here all day long. And we certainly couldn't do it in 2020. And the anxiety of taking on the responsibility, because the students were miserable without having it in 2020. The parents were miserable. So in 2021, I say, how can I do this and not let it fade and do it safely? And we did it. And I have to say, this group of kids with masks on in the August heat, running around outside, learning, it was incredible.
Yeah, it's definitely a struggle for what it's been. And like you said, everybody's trying not to let their events or anything like that fade. But like you said, they don't want things to fade away. I like I've always said, social media is a blessing and a curse. Mm-hmm. It's a blessing because I would have never found about the opening of the preserve without social media.
True.
And if there wasn't social media, how would we keep things going as strong as we want to these days? And without like posting events and then sharing those events and everybody getting involved, it would be tough after what has happened to keep your events going strong.
Yes.
So I thank social media, and I also curse social media.
Yeah, I know. I've been in a lot of cursing social media wars, but you know what? I've also learned. I don't even want to get into the social media. I was a warrior. I was like, no, I cannot let that be said and that be and stand as truth when it is not truth, and I will stand up when it is not truth. But I can't even do that anymore. And I'm not sad that I can't, because it doesn't matter. You can spew your hatred and your lies and your bullshit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say bullshit.
You can. Oh, yeah.
But I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to do it. Just do it because it's a fringe and it's a passing thing and it's meant to distract. And I'm not going to be distracted anymore.
Yep. What really matters is what's happening in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Right across from you. And you said, like, seeing the joy on those kids' faces when going through like you said, the blistering heat and the mask on is absolutely phenomenal. And I couldn't even imagine how that felt. So next question would be, you were around during the 70s and 80s, and I've heard that was a crazy era in the hiking, not just hiking, but everything. So I was curious. I'm always curious. I've heard stories of the way the Catskills were in the 70s and 80s. I heard they were kicking, basically.
You could say that. Yeah, of course. I mean, even especially at the marina. Yeah, the Catskills were kicking. It was a lot of short shorts and streaking and fireworks and food.
All the stories were true that I've heard. That's crazy.
Oh yes, they were true.
Like my friends have told me, like in the 70s and 80s, they were like partying on the summits and at viewpoints and stuff like that. Like, and the creeks were flooded with people.
Ruins. I mean, locals. Those of us locals, we didn't go to bars. We went out into the woods. I don't think we were summiting from Catskill. Nah, of course we weren't. We just had to go to Palinville. It was close enough. Yeah, it was for the kids. It was good, but for the adults, it was. I don't know what was going on with the adults most of the time. There was a lot more than I think I'll ever know. But it was wild and crazy. It was good times. It was carefree.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way to say it. Definitely. Also, were you ever involved since 70s and 80s? Did you ever get to go and check out were you ever involved with the Borscht Belt over there? That's a fascinating part of Catskills history.
No, we never went to the Borscht Belt. My family, because we owned a marina, our summers were spent running the marina. Our winters were really where we got to enjoy the Catskills and all the mountains all over the place. We were all skiers. Everybody skied, snow skied, but there were no snowboards. And sometimes there were no lifts. There were still T-bars and rope tows. But we made a point of going out during the winter, every weekend, it seemed, to another mountain. My mother, who is soon to come back and live here again in the Catskills, has a ski jacket that has a patch. We always got a patch no matter what mountain we went to, all over New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, Pennsylvania. We skied everywhere, and we got a patch everywhere we went, or a pin. And that's what we did. We skied because we had to work all summer. Yeah.
So you said you worked on Hunter Mountain, correct?
I did. I worked not on Hunter Mountain. I worked at Mountain Sports in Haines Falls, which was a ski shop since I was 16. Got my driver's license. Had many commutes up and down in the winter with my Dodge Coronet, which I shouldn't have even been driving on those roads. But when you work at a ski shop and you got to do what you got to do, a 16-year-old has to drive up that mountain and down that mountain to go to work and come home. And I still can't believe to this day that I did those things.
Yeah. I can't believe you guys drove in those conditions and those clunky, wide, long cars that the back end just sits there and drifts all the time. I can't believe that. Barely with snow tires.
Yeah, no, there was no such thing as snow tires.
That's what I thought. That's amazing. So the difference of Hunter, of what it was and what it is it still, was it like I said, kicking back then as
Oh
well, or
yeah,
no?
the village of Hunter was alive and thriving and fantastic. I mean, it's when I drive through Hunter now, I mean, I don't do it often because I'm an old curmudgeon and I don't want to deal with crowds and strangers, and I don't ski anymore because I've done it. I've done enough of it. I'm doing other things now. Tannersville is still kind of Tannersville. I mean, Tannersville's always been that funky little let's do it, kind of village. But Hunter, I don't know. I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but Hunter isn't what Hunter was.
Yeah, I can definitely tell. And like you said, Tannersville, I love that place. What a beautiful town that is, and it's still kicking. But I'm just curious of why, Hunter is down when it has that big resort and it's still kicking. Like, the resort's still pretty nice.
Well, Hunter was always the premier mountain. Hunter was where everybody wanted to be. But when I was working at Mountain Sports, Cortina Valley was still open, and like the ski reps, the salesman would come in and give my boss a pair of skis, and he said, "Give me 9.5 boots," and he'd give them to me and say, "Go out and beat the shit out of these and see if we can rent them." And I'm like, okay, great. So I'd go down to Cortina. I didn't have to do anything. I just, because in a ski rental business, your busy time is in the morning. You got to rent all the skis out. And then in the evening, you got to get all the skis back. But during the day, what do? You're tuning up a couple skis. You're, piddling around the shop. No, go out and ski.
Wow.
I was lucky. I was very fortunate to have the life I've had.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I always like to for some reason, the history of the Catskills fascinates me. Just what it was, seeing pictures and what it is now, I wish it could be it's hopping somewhat, but it's not like what it was. Of course.
Times change, Stosh.
Yeah,
that's right. You can just live it in your dreams.
I mean, I'm happy of where everything is right now. I'm happy I'm living now and stuff like that. So, but I love hearing about the history of the Catskills. It just fascinates me for some reason.
It's a great place. A lot of history.
Definitely.
A lot of stuff went down here. America's first wilderness,
Yep, exactly. And from there on out, it's pretty funny that it's America's first wilderness, but it's overlooked so much because it's not big, massive peaks with open summits and stuff like that. So
yeah, blah blah blah. That's all right. We know what we got.
Exactly. That's what I say. I'm just like, that's okay. Adirondacks are cooler. Stay away. So yeah, so the 70s and 80s were kicking. So extremely different times at what they were now. If anybody's listening, definitely check out pictures of what it was and what it is. It's definitely some cool stuff, like Bear Pen Mountain. I love that story. It's a horrible story, but I love that story. The fire towers, stuff like that was really cool, interesting history, and the way they developed, the way they were. People were up there 24 hours a day for 30 years, maybe even more than that. It's crazy stuff. So what's your favorite part about the Catskills? Do you have, like, besides I don't know, what's your favorite part about the Catskills?
Millennia. My husband and I watch a lot of geology, tectonic plate movements, and when I see a Catskillian boulder that has 400 layers of sediment over millions of years, I just get transported. I can't imagine that I'm standing at the bottom of an ancient sea floor that is now what we call mountains. It's that deep evidence right in front of your eyes. I mean, you don't have to look deep to find evidence of ancientness in the Catskills. And I love that. I feel connected.
I agree. There's something about, like you said, that's seeing that rock that has the pancake layers, different angles, stuff like that, but the rock that's like 10 feet high,
Yeah.
And you can just look at it and be like, wow, look at all that different times. Look at all
Mhm.
that stuff. And it's fascinating to me when, once again, like you said, when you see one of those boulders in the middle of nowhere and you're like, wow, that was transported here by a glacier 17,000 years ago. That
Man.
maybe, yeah, we hope or whatever. We think so. So, but it's like you said, seeing and then the geology of the Catskills is fascinating as well.
Yeah.
And I love to hear about those different geological terms in the Catskills, like the dance floors. I love hearing about the dance floors. That's so cool. The striations are so neat to look at. So excellent. That's I gotta admit, that's I agree with that one.
Well, there's a group going up today, actually, a hike I did not attend because it was too early and too far, but trying to determine whether or not Slide Mountain was actually glaciated during the latest Wisconsin ice sheet or not. There is controversy that Slide may have been above the ice the last time.
I
We'll see
remember.
what the geologists have to say.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. Slide, and they think that Westkill was also above the ice, correct?
I don't know. We're going to start with Slide. If Slide wasn't, then there's no reason to go any further.
Yeah. Excellent. I'm gonna how do I get in on that one? That's
You
my stuff.
just email me.
Awesome. I definitely got to get in on that. Geology is my
I'll be
favorite.
with Mike on Friday, and I'll tell him you're interested, and I'll have him email you. How about that?
Excellent. Have him tell him like this guy is a young guy and he's willing to haul
He
anything
knows
up.
you. He
he,
knows you.
he somewhat knows me. I remember he's the one thing I remember
He
about him.
knows you. He knows everything. He knows you.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
the one funny thing I remember about him, I saw him at what's that time in Margaretville, the forest or
Forest Festival.
the forest festival. I saw him and there was an awesome band playing. He comes over to me. He's like, "What are all these loud noises?"
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh, Dr. Kudish, that's a good band playing." I'm like, "They're really good." I think they were like a 70s, 80s tribute band. So they were playing some like Leonard Skinner or stuff like that. And I was just laughing.
Yeah. Loud noises and Mike are not friends. Yeah.
Well then, excellent. So next question leads into what we were just talking about. When did you start working with Dr. Kudish?
Oh, 2003. I was
Wow.
working for the Catskill Center for Conservation and Development in Arkville, and Mike would come down and spend the summers. He was still teaching at Paul Smith's college in the Adirondacks, and he would spend the summers in Fleischman's to continue studying his college, his doctoral thesis from that he completed in 1971 of the vegetational history of the Catskill High Peaks. And in 2021, one of the first event that we had, and one of the only ones, was celebrating his accomplishments. He likes to say he's the only college student who's still working on his thesis 50 years later. Because he is, because we're still studying the vegetational history of the Catskill High Peaks, and not just the High Peaks, by the way. It's expanded to the whole Catskill region, which is somewhat undefined depending on who you ask. What is the Catskills? Certainly more than the Catskill Park. It's certainly more than the Catskill High Peaks. And so he would come to the Catskill Center to back up his field notes, and I was the membership and outreach coordinator, so I was sort of the face of the organization. And he invited me on a hike, and I went, and we became friends. And I was trying to ask him, of course, he takes meticulous notes, so he knows every hike that I've been on because it's documented. But how I could compile that information is not. It's not in a database. It's not on a computer. It's on pieces of paper that are photocopied and backed up. And there's all kinds of efforts to digitize his research. There's been a lot done already. There's going to be a lot more. But I would guess that if I averaged 10 hikes a year over 18 years, then I've probably been on 180 hikes with Mike, which I used to lament that I wasn't a Paul Smith student in his classroom, but I think 180 hikes is probably more FaceTime than any bachelor's degree student ever got. So I'm doing pretty good.
That's more FaceTime than probably most people in his life. You know,
That could be true too.
that I mean, you're a big part of his life. You're a big part of his research, his new research. That's phenomenal. So you are a big part of his studies. So let's talk to Dr. Kudish and make sure he includes your name in there in a big bold print.
We don't need to talk to him about that.
Okay.
We're peas in a pod. It's all good.
Good. Because that's, I mean, to be, I guess to say his right hand man is got to be awesome, and to be as almost as knowledgeable as he is
no.
I don't know.
Absolutely not. Never. Not even close.
Some of the times that I've been on the hikes, I remember him asking you questions or asking himself questions, and you have to correct him. And I was like, "Oh, awesome! That's great. That's amazing."
That's because he's an awesome professor. He asks questions and wants you to answer them. It's not necessarily that he doesn't know the answer.
Oh.
He knows the answer.
Well, those times I think I've hiked twice with you guys. Those times I'd never even heard those languages that you guys speak. So that first time when we hiked throughout the preserve in the pouring rain. It's just us three, but like I'm just sitting there fascinated and just like I have no clue what these guys are speaking. I'm like, I don't even know what this bush is right next to me. But
I definitely have to go hiking with Stash on a Tuesday.
Yes. Yeah. I would definitely love to hear, because like once again, I'm fascinated with the forest like you guys are. I wonder what these trees are. I wonder what these plants are. I wonder how old this tree is, but I don't have that knowledge. I need to get that knowledge in my head.
It takes a while.
Yeah, but it's absolutely stunning stuff. So David, that's awesome. You are a big part of his studies in the past 18 years. That is incredible. And you were a big part of the Catskills. That's once again another reason why I wanted to have you on this podcast, because you're a big part of the Catskills, a big part of Catskills study in the forest.
Don't make me cry.
Try not to. I was crying yesterday with this. So.
Oh,
it was.
I hope Jessica kissed your boo boo.
She did. After she screamed at me because I did this, but
yeah.
But that's what's supposed to happen. They're supposed to be like, "What the hell did you do that for?" And I'm like, I didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Purpose, I would have done it at home so I could just lay down and go to sleep. But so we're talking about you and Dr. Kudish, the Michael Kudish Natural History Preserve is located in Stanford, by the way. Everybody check it out. They're still developing trails and stuff like that, correct? Or do you have some down?
Well, that's a sticky thicket, and I have to discuss it with my board and Mike. But the original plan was to have it where you can go in and pick up a brochure, and you can go on an interpretive hike of your own, and you can learn on your own. And we'd have nice groomed trails. And for some reason, I've been dragging my feet on that. And I didn't really put my finger on it until very recently, in the last few months. Not even pandemic related, but related to, I think, our American chestnuts. We have 2 American chestnut trees that we were lucky enough to get 16 years ago, before I knew what I was doing. And they're alive, and they're fruiting, and they're flowering and fruiting, and they're pure American chestnuts. And that's so rare to find. And then the new jumping worms and there's a new beech disease. Beech bark disease was killing all the beech trees. Now it's beech leaf disease. It's gonna, and the emerald ash borer isn't here yet. Knock on wood, but I'm not gonna knock because my dogs will bark. And the ticks, we never had ticks like this before, and now they're not carrying just Lyme disease. They're carrying 4 different diseases, and almost everybody I know gets it. I don't necessarily know that we want trails. There's enough trails in the Catskills where people can hike recreationally. They're education wise. I want to provide the education, but I kind of want to know who's getting the education and why, rather than you're just picking up a brochure and you're going and walking around and I don't know where you've been or where you're coming from or what you're going to do next. So I think my innate hesitation for beautifully groomed trails had a reason. And now, I mean, we have some really special stuff at the preserve. We have populations of plants that you might not see someplace else. And so it being a preserve, I think, has become more important to me than it being an open space for anyone to enjoy whenever they want to enjoy it. I want them to enjoy it, but I would rather them enjoy it in a managed sort of way.
Wow, that's a great point to bring up. You're preserving the preserve.
I guess that's what it means.
Yeah, so I totally understand with that, and hopefully, other people understand. Over the past couple, I've only been hiking in the Catskills for 6 years now, exclusively in the Catskills for 6 years. But you notice the big impact has happened to it, and it's definitely understandable what you're saying, because what an impact it could have on those American chestnuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's an impact it could have on the flora when people start trampling over it, or they're like, oh, we can't go over here, this is a boggy area, we have to redirect it over here. That's going to ruin that area. So I understand. So thank you for explaining that. I mean, I was curious of if it was going to be a positive outcome, but that's still a positive outcome.
Oh, it's definitely a positive outcome. I think it's more positive than ever. I mean, if I look at a forest and I'm looking at the history of that forest for 100, 200, 500 years, and then I'm looking at the preserve where its history is already fragmented and what it's going to be in 50, 100, 200. I'm not going to still be here to enjoy it, but someone will. And wouldn't it be nice that it's still there for them? So we're starting an endowment fund to make sure that happens, actually.
Oh, awesome. That's some good news.
Yes.
So hopefully your and Dr. Kudish's legacy will keep going on to pass it to someone to just as excited and just as knowledgeable as you guys to keep that place the way it is.
That's the goal.
See, that's, this is why I'm doing this, is education. I was thinking, put a trail through there, let everybody else see what else is in there, but that's not the case. Not always.
Not always. There's some trails in the Catskills that I wish weren't there, actually, too.
Yeah.
And there's other trails in the Catskills that I wish were there, but the state has done a good job over decades of making it accessible to the public, and the public has been generally respectful of that up until late, it seems. And so let them do what they do, and I'll do what I do, and Michael do what he does, and we'll all see what happens next.
Yeah, and it's tough, you see from both sides of the story. People, I was furious of what happened in the past couple of years, with how this place has been treated. Actually, every national park has been treated. But I also somewhat understand, because they just came up here out of nowhere, so they were uneducated. I was once the same uneducated guy. I still took care of things. I still left no trace and stuff like that. But I wore khakis in the winter while hiking, snowshoeing. I wore heavy coats and no moisture wicking materials. This was only 6 years ago. So, but I mean, I think they were came up here and they were uneducated, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to educate, and that's why I'm doing this, is to educate.
Well, thank you so much for what you do. And I'm so glad that you love the Catskills and that you're helping raise the voice again.
Exactly. And that's why I got in the 3,500 club for just to climb the peaks as something like accomplishment. Once I did that, hopefully people will be just like the way I did this. Is I did the peaks, and when I was doing the peaks, I found much more, much more.
Well, that's why the 3,500 Club exists, to help you find so much more. And thank the 3,500 Club for all they do. My goodness.
Yes, and that's I joined the committee, and what a freaking insane time to join the committee during a global pandemic when everybody was coming up here and violating the rules. But I thought, why not give them there's no podcast in here. People like podcasts. I'm going to give them an educational podcast, the Catskills. Get people thinking more and more about education, preserving, leave no trace, all that different stuff, and save the Catskills while you can.
Yeah, good job. Bravo. Stosh.
I'm trying. It's tough. It's tough, to spread the word of the education. It's tough to get that nailed in people's heads, especially when they don't care. But
they do. That you just have to weigh the percentages. I mean, there is that small percentage that will never care, and then the percentage of people who are really appreciating things, especially after the pandemic, is growing. I mean,
yep.
I don't know. We were supposed to say the age of Aquarius was the 60s. Well, I think we're still in the age of Aquarius. I just think we just got a couple more hurdles, a couple more pits and mounds to climb over.
Correct. And you know what? We'll get through this. We'll get through teaching people about leave no trace and about helping out the Catskills. I have to say it, in the past 2 years after what have all happened in the Catskills, the volunteering aspect of getting out there and help volunteering has skyrocketed, and that's great to see.
And the young people. I'm an active member in the New York State Outdoor Education Association, and we have an annual conference, and there's all these Student Conservation Association interns out there that are working for nothing to teach the youth at 4-H camps and YMCAs and state parks, and they're incredible. They're smart and they're enthusiastic and they're dedicated and they're underpaid. I mean, really underpaid. We're all underpaid, and unfortunately in our capitalist world, but they're really underpaid and kind of, I don't know. They're doing what they love to do, and I'm thankful that they're there. And they're all overlooked far too often. They are our future.
That's definitely correct. They are our future, and they are definitely overlooked because I volunteered at Slide Mountain this previous summer, and seeing those summit stewards, what they had to do. My God, I couldn't even imagine what they had to do, especially Slide and Panther and Overlook. Oh my God!
Up in the Adirondacks, it's even worse.
Yep.
Yeah. So
what the beating they have to take from people, who are just like, don't tell me what to do. You can't tell me what to do. Like, come on, they're not telling you what to do. They're
I know, but we're not gonna focus on that, Stosh.
Yes, but we're gonna focus. We're gonna thank them, the summit stewards.
We're gonna thank those summit stewards.
Yes, and the volunteers and everything like that. Thank you so much for all that you did in the past 2 years, because it has been insane.
Yes.
So
thank you.
Yes, definitely coming from both of us. So my last question is, any future events coming up at the preserve? Like, we gonna have
Oh,
another
don't
sunset?
ask me about that. We're going to have a music festival and an art festival next year. We're going to have all kinds of programming. It's all going to be happening. If you want to know about it, go to www.mknhp.org. Sign up for the email list because we're going paperless, except for our fundraising. That always has to be paper. But yeah, sign up for the email list. You'll know what's coming up. We don't send out a lot of spam. It's one shot. This is what's going to happen. Come and see us when you want to.
And I advise people to do that, because that was a memorable time. And I have those paintings hanging up on my wall, and I'll always remember those. I have David's paintings all over my freaking house. We adore it. We see it every time in the morning. We walk down it's right down the stairs. It's right on the stairs. If you ever want to donate to the preserve, David does a painting every year for people who donate a certain amount of money. And let me tell you, this stuff is fascinating.
Oh,
You're
good to me, Stash.
Yeah, oh man, that one picture that you painted, actually all those pictures of the 4 seasons, just blows our mind every time, and we love it. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, man, I enjoy it so much, and I look forward to the future events up on the preserve. I cannot wait. It's been too long, and we need something to kick it up and get Stanford back into those 70s. 2022,
baby, here we come.
I'm definitely excited. Trust me. I hope everybody's excited. So everybody, check out the Michael Kudish National History Preserve, www.mknhp.com. And David, once again, thank you for joining us tonight, joining me tonight. I always say that. I always say us. I don't know why.
Well, you are us. You can be us.
Me and the Catskills. Thank you for joining me tonight. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it too, Stash.
Excellent. Once again, thank the sponsors, Scenic Route Guiding. Sarah, if you're listening to this, I need an advertisement, please. I need something cool and funny about mountain lions or something. I'd like to thank the monthly donors again, Katrina Weinig, Darren White, John Comiskey, and Myra and Sean. Thank you for your donations today. Thank you once again for listening. Subscribe on any platform. Spotify is the biggest. Apple Podcasts are the biggest. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you have a good night. David, have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.